What's your thought process like shaped your life? No, shaped your, like, how have you had a book
that I actually read?
that you actually read?
Everyone, welcome to episode 8 of A Little Unbalanced. Cassie's back.
Hi.
She's feeling 80%
better-ish.
Today we're going to be discussing a thought process because I think thought process is huge. I think rerouting or rethinking certain situations is massive. You got
it.
And like how it's going to affect your whole day. So do you think that like your thought process has changed from when you started like this journey, from when you like before you started to now?
Absolutely. I think like as you go to counseling and as you learn more about yourself and learn about how your thoughts actually shape your reality, you're able to catch your anxiety quicker. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the biggest thing that's shifted for me, is because I still have good days and I still have bad days, right?
Yeah.
Where you wake up one morning and you're in a negative mindset. And so if I'm not actively doing the things that I've been taught, then I'm going to continue to spiral. But I can catch myself spiraling. Yeah. Whereas before, I would have let it derail, maybe not just that day, but the next day, and it would have continued. And so I do still sometimes get in that negative spiral, but I do find like reflecting on it, or sometimes in the moment, I'm able to catch that negativity, and then I'm able to do a practice to help it. So I like to do gratitude practices, which are super simple. And I like to do meditation. And that helps. And then just visualizations that I found.
Yeah.
What do you find that works for you, or how has it changed you?
Well, I do all that. But if I'm in the moment, like if I'm driving, and I can't, obviously, I'm not going to just start meditating as I'm driving. But like, so in situations where I just try to really like change my thought. Or I like go into the, this pen is going to be a disaster for me, waving it around. So, guard up. So if we're driving, especially driving, or if I'm anticipating something to happen, I try to bring back the reality, if that makes sense. So like I was telling Cass before this, because it's super smoky here, and I told her that I was on the weather app looking to see what the weather's going to be, how the smoke is going to be. I'm trying to anticipate what's going to happen so I can like be prepared for it when you can't really be prepared for it. And then I started getting anxiety about it, and I started to get worried because in my mind, if there's smoke, I go outside to ground, and I go outside to kind of reroute and to just ground myself. And if I'm outside and it's smoky, I can't get fresh air. I can't like you can't do that. So then I'm like, hey, well, what happens if I have a panic attack? What happens if I can't get outside to really reground myself? And then it's like, this is what, like the 3rd or 4th year that it's been smoky.
Yes.
Like we've been doing this every year almost. So I'm like, and I've never had anything happen, and I've survived. So like, I'll figure it out. Like it is what it is. So then I just try to like reroute and like think about the reality of it.
Yeah.
Instead of being like the negative of it, I guess, in a sense. So
it's like you're calling out your anxiety, almost like you're calling out that negative thought process. So it can't continue to spiral. And I remember when we were living in Kamloops, and it has to do with the smoke too. So Kamloops, if you've never been there, is like the hub of fire. So the one year, there was fires all around us. Ashcroft to the north, to the south. There was lightning storms that were hitting, and I could see it right from my home. So you would see the lightning just across the riverbed. And in my mind, I'd never lived through it before. So I was catastrophizing everything. So I was like, oh my God, we got to get packed. We got to get out of here. And my husband and his family were very calm, and they'd lived through these seasons, these fire seasons. And they said, no, somebody will be here. Like, you have to be aware, but we're not going to get crazy. We're not going to like, I guess, only put our focus on the fires, because they'd lived through that season before. And so they had a different thought process going into the whole fire season than I did. And now that we've had so many seasons, like you said, you're a little more calm, but you're aware, right? And you're prepared, but you're not I guess trying to catch yourself before you are continuously looking at those apps and you're continuously like, do you know what I mean?
I'm trying to like prepare myself for something that I can't prepare for, in a sense.
Yeah.
Like I can't really prepare for smoke when, I don't know, it just sounds ridiculous. And people probably like from the outside that don't struggle with that stuff probably look at us and they're like, well, just don't think about it.
Yeah.
Right? Which is like, we're not supposed to stop thinking about it, but we're supposed to reroute and we're supposed to retrain and reprogram that, like, okay, the reality of it is that, we will be okay. If not, we figure it out in that time, because there's nothing we can do to really figure it out. And if it hasn't happened yet.
Absolutely. And what you focus on grows. And that's something that I've really noticed in my life. So that first fire season, or like you said, you caught yourself this time, but maybe the first fire season, you would have let it go on a little longer and you'd be focusing on the news, and the news catastrophizes everything.
Yeah, I can't even listen to the news.
So much of like social media is based around fear. And so then when you have anxiety, you look at those fear-based messages, and then it makes you go, oh no, I have to do all of these things to mentally prepare. But in reality, your fear and your anxiety are doing nothing to serve you, because you're not actually taking actionable steps. You're just living in your head in this imaginary space. Mm-hmm. And then your body looks at that fear as though it's actually, you're living in it. So then you're going into that chronic state of stress.
Oh yeah, you're just slowly digging.
And then you're like, your body's declining, you're getting sick, things like that are happening because of that stress, right? Mm-hmm. So in reality, if we could catch it sooner rather than later, then you're actually doing a better service to your entire system, because you're able to function, and you could be going through your checklist of, okay, well, I've packed a bag, I've got water, we're gassed up. You know what I mean? Like if I get really bad, if my anxiety gets bad, I could probably go to an indoor space somewhere or go to my car and turn on the air conditioner. Like, you know what I mean? There's all of these things that you can go through. But we can't do that when we're living in that fear-based pattern, because you're not actually able to function and take actionable steps. Yeah,
you're not thinking about the reality of it.
Yeah.
You're in your own little, like, effed up world.
Yeah, it's true.
You're in your own little...
You're living the worst
You're in your zombie
scenarios.
Apocalypse, and you're waiting for the shitstorm to happen.
Yeah. Who I can't remember who it is. They would say worst case Ontario, and that's always stuck with me. And then,
I've never heard that.
So whenever I get in that mindset, I'm like, oh, I'm going worst case Ontario, and it kind of snaps me out of it, because it seems ridiculous, because it is ridiculous. Like, your body doesn't understand that you're not actually physically going through that stuff, whatever's going on in your...
I have so many like weird, if they're quirks or like stuff, but even if somebody gives me food, I've told Cass this before, if they give me food and I know we don't really like each other, or we don't have like the best relationship, I'll think they poisoned me, and I probably won't eat it.
That's why they used to cheers, and then you'd have to spill a little into each other's cup.
Oh, really?
Yes. Did you know
to
that?
Test each other?
Here we go.
Cheers. Except for, don't give me coffee.
Yeah. So that if there was poison in one cup, they'd both die.
Okay.
Yeah. So get them to test a little.
Oh, you should try one first. I want to see how good it is. How do you go about that without actually telling them, did you poison me?
Yeah.
That, and then I have trying new foods. If I have allergic reaction to them.
Oh. Okay.
So, yeah, I have weird, like, mindsets. And those ones I still, like, they still in my head, but I'm not as fixated on them now, I don't think. Obviously, maybe a little bit. What's another one? The smoke. Everything. Yeah. Just life in general is like hard. Driving somewhere that's far away, if there's hospitals close by.
Oh, yeah.
Or if there's like no cell service.
No cell service is one that gets to me.
Yeah. So it doesn't, like, I still do stuff, obviously, but I always have those thoughts in my brain. But now I'm trying to like reroute those thoughts and, okay, well, if it happens, it happens. And then I'll figure it out then. But it doesn't mean that it's not easy to get to that point. But
Do you feel like being a mom too kind of forces you to think of the worst case scenario so you can prepare for them? That's, you know what I mean?
I think so.
Because I didn't have as much anxiety until I became a mom.
Yeah, I feel like that's a huge one for almost everybody.
Yeah. And then you're always like thinking about not just yourself, but you're thinking about your kids and like sometimes your husband, depending on the situation, right? And you're always trying to like, I guess, go forward and create less problems for everybody around you.
Yeah.
But I was talking with my counselor about that, and she said to me, she's like, that's not your job. She's like, it's their job to solve their problems.
Even as a mom?
Even as a mom, well, to an extent.
I'm like, baby.
Yeah, no, but to an extent, like my kids are older, and so we were talking about, you know, packing lunches and doing all that type of stuff for them. Yeah. Whereas I always want to like micromanage things, and that's part of my anxiety too. Whereas like I've kind of learned to step back and not every problem is my problem to solve. And it's like that whole idea when you're talking with somebody and they're in a negative thought process. And I heard a really good tip, and they're like, well, ask them, do you just want me to listen? Or would you like advice? Yeah. And I thought that was such a cool tip, because often especially when I'm talking to my poor husband, I'm just unloading and I just want him to listen and be like, I understand. I'm sorry you're going through this. I don't want him to tell me what I'm supposed to do to fix it, because I'm not in that headspace. And so I thought that was a cool
It'll just piss you off more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I get that. Yeah. There's been times where I've done that, where I'm unloading on my mom and she'll start giving me advice. And before it used to just piss me off, and then I would shut down and be like, I'm done with this conversation. Now I can say like, I'm not looking for advice right now.
I just want to feel heard.
Yeah, which is true. Like if you go into something pissed and somebody's trying to tell you and you didn't ask them. Yeah. But if you go in asking, then be like, expect for somebody to give you advice, obviously. But if you go in there just saying, this and this and this happened, this is how I feel, and you didn't say, what should I do to change this? Yeah. Just don't help, like try to give somebody a million things of advice that you think are going to help them. They didn't go there for that, I don't think. But therapists, almost every therapist I've gone to has started and said, yeah, do you want me to listen or do you want me to give you advice? Yeah. So, and I'm like, I don't know, both. We'll see. Yeah. We'll see how this works out. Because I've had my therapist before when I'm like unloading and she'll start giving me advice and I start to get annoyed. Yeah. And I'm like, and I start to get, frustrated with it. But
well, and I think the thing is too, like not everybody's advice is going to sit or resonate with you, right? So if you're in a negative mindset, like we are, like often when we are in a negative thought process is when we want to unleash on people, right?
I thought, oops, sorry. Okay. I thought you were saying like that we're always in a negative mindset. You're like, when we're in a negative mindset, like often.
Well,
like,
some days.
Fair enough.
Some days. Depends on the day. But I think like that's when I go, when I'm negative, and it's not fair. I'm always thinking about my poor husband because he's my go-to. But usually it's just like, I just need somebody and I want to dump all of that on them. Whereas like if I catch it sooner and I realize, okay, I'm going to use a tool to stop this, then my conversations are not me dumping that information onto somebody, but it's more of like, okay, now I can problem solve instead of just sit in the problem, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Quiet time.
Do you think there's like something that you do that helps you to get out of the problem and like into the solution oriented phase? Because that's probably like the biggest thing for people is to not just sit in the problem. And I think about like health issues or things like that. Yeah. Sometimes you go down like the Google rabbit hole and you're just like, oh my God, there's a million things that are going to go wrong.
I find Google not... So I used to find Google like, hey, don't Google it. Don't Google. And I've had doctors say, take this pill, don't Google it, try it and see if it helps you. And if you have side effects after a week of trying it, then you can Google it, which has helped me because I Google everything. Yeah. But then I also find, because we're advocating for ourselves so much now, that Google are like kind of looking into what your symptoms are. You can go to the doctor and be like, this is what I think it is. And then, you know, these are the symptoms I have. And can we look down this route? And then sometimes it helps you. Yeah. go down to finding your diagnosis, I guess.
I think like, yes, because of the way the current health system is, you have to be an advocate for yourself. But this is where I have to catch myself, is when I start off on Google and then I look at every single symptom and then I Google every single symptom and figure out how it is good. Like, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like, you know, you get started and then you keep going and keep going and keep going. So I think it is if you're being proactive and you're being aware, but when you start to get like down that, you know, that negative spiral,
yes.
that's where I find that I get off, but also doctors don't always tell you what you need to hear in regards to a lot of the stuff they're putting in your body, right?
Because they're just like,
they're just a quick fix, or they have pharmaceutical, you know, they're getting money for their pharmacy. I don't know how it works, but I know there's all sorts of drug claims and things going on.
They're making money somehow off of you.
Yes.
But one book that I found really, really good that helped me in my journey of like the thought process was A Little Peace of Mind by Nicola Bird.
I haven't read that one yet.
She was the one that gave me the idea of the little person in your head and how much, but in every, I think, self-help book or any videos that you watch, a lot of them is your thought process. Mm-hmm. Everything is your thought process. That's why it's so huge for me, because I know if I wake up in the morning, and a lot of times I'll wake up and I'll like read my body and I'll feel everything. And I'll be like, hey, my ear kind of hurts this morning. Oh, my hand's a little asleep, or my side hurts because that's where my tumor is. I'm like, okay, so what if it's this, this, and this? And then I start going down that rabbit hole. So if I wake up and I change that and I'm like, okay, like let's, you know, today is going to be this, today is going to be that. So it helps a lot if something happens right in the morning. So like if I wake up and my dogs are jumping around and they're being hyper and the kids are like talking, then it helps me because I don't go down that rabbit hole too far. Yeah. But if I have time to sit there by myself for a long time and really get into it, then I do get into it. And I think the closer it gets for my checkup as well, like the closer it gets, I start to get worse. Mm. So when I'm going in for my 6 month, I start to like think of like the, okay, what if, where I'm like, oh, should I phone my surgeon? Should I do this? And my husband's like, you've had so many MRIs, so many ultrasounds, so much blood work. Like there is other tests we can do, but I'm the one that also stopped those. So it's like, because I'm nervous. So it's like the whole thought, it's just a lot. Instead of just being like, hey, we've had all these tests. They're keeping an eye on it. They're very involved. So let's just be at peace with it and go with what happens next.
Yeah. And I can relate. That's hard when you don't know what the outcome's going to be, right? And you want to be mentally prepared. And I think that is anxiety. Like anxiety serves the purpose of keeping us safe, right? Yeah. So especially when you're dealing with health issues, like you want to be mentally prepared so that you can get ahead of whatever's coming, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Get the ball rolling.
Yeah, it's just like you're putting that wall up before.
Oh wait, no, yes.
Get the ball.
You're stopping the ball from rolling. You're putting your foot down.
Yep.
And you're stopping that ball. My brother. Yeah, hold on. Before we shut this down, I have to make a call out to my brother and call him an asshole. Because he told me, he's like, you're going to call me an asshole online. Because he told me he was going to go through all my podcasts and he was going to pick out where I messed up on my words, messed up on my sentences because I'm dyslexic and I make up my own words a lot of times. So he was going to go through all those and then he was going to send me a big text being like, you fucked up here, 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 here. He's like, and then you can go online and call me asshole. So I'm just getting ahead of the game and I'm just going to call you asshole now. So that's for you. And you know who you are.
I do think like that whole message of what you focus on grows. So don't focus on your brother.
Yeah, fucking fucker.
That's funny. No, I think like there's so many situations in both of our lives where if we were focusing on the negative, then we're usually winding up on the phone with each other.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Vanessa. this is how my day went.
This is what happened. I'll phone Cass and she'll be like, bleh.
Yeah.
Like, I need to let this. It's like I have an intuition. Cass needs me right now.
Yes.
I have to phone her. And like vice versa. She'll phone me and I'll be like, bleh.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah.
So I guess that's another tool, is just having somebody that you can dump without like the judgment.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes when you're talking to your spouse, like they take things personally, even though it's not about them.
Yes, yeah.
Right? And so when you're talking to somebody who's kind of removed from that helps. And that's hence the counseling. Why we're
and you kind of talk to them different too.
You do. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I wouldn't look at you and be like, Cash, you're not looking at me right.
Yeah.
Are you even listening to me?
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't go into that mindset of being like trying to like judge you as I'm verbally.
Whereas
like
with your spouse, you do sometimes.
Like you looked at me wrong right there. Do you not like this topic right now?
Are you bored?
Yeah.
Am I boring you?
So it's different. But yeah, the mindset thing is huge. The thought process is huge. The Little Peace of Mind by Nicola Bird. She also has programs that you can join. I think I still get emails to this day trying to help. I did get the program once, and you join a Facebook group and they have like you post when you're having a hard time, but you can't post all the time if you're having a hard time, because she doesn't want you sitting in that thought. So there's like certain days that you can get online and you can just let it all out. And then everybody that's on there can like reach out and kind of help you in that process. And I think hers was a huge start to my journey, because I was going to therapy for a while before I read her book. And what her book had said really resonated with me. So
awesome. I'll have to read it too. Yeah.
I'll give it to you.
Beautiful. How do you spell Nicola, just for the audience if they want to?
Nicola. You're really trying to put it out there, hey?
Yeah.
You know how my spelling works. And then Bird. EIRD.
Perfect.
Nicola Bird, A Little Peace of Mind. She's everywhere.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to read it. I like reading all of those. Usually they have a bleep in the in the name. Like calm as bleep.
Oh yeah. I do have another one that has the F word in it. Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I'll have to let you borrow it. It's just the tiniest. It's super easy read.
That's nice.
Yeah. It's just a very easy about her journey with it. So, and then she just kind of gives tidbits on it.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We're so happy you could be here today. And we're hoping to send positive vibes that the smoke is going to clear and we no longer have to sit in that.
Clear.
But sending lots of love, and check out that book if that's something that interests you.
Yeah.